Hi, I'm Reverend Kate from the Center for Spiritual Living, Carlsbad, where our mission is to teach, demonstrate, and inspire a positive approach to living. And I've called today's talk Enjoy in Joy because I feel like our enjoyment really does depend on having a certain state of mind. We need to actually be in joy in order to enjoy. It's an odd thing, but when I chose the title of this talk, I was really feeling quite joyful. But then when I actually sat down and started writing the talk, I wasn't really feeling that joyful, but writing it, thinking about the principles of our teaching, the principles of science of mind kind of turned me around. And I hope that this talk will also help you establish a more joyful and happy state of mind because, we're not happy all the time. I'm certainly not, and I imagine you're not. And sometimes, especially in December, it can kind of feel like, December is not really life in a greeting card. It's real life, just like every other month, and sometimes even more so because in December, sometimes, it triggers a lot of memories. So there might be an extra feeling of sadness about certain dreams or certain memories. For example, in my case, I can't have Christmas dinner with my mom. She's no longer living. I can't have Christmas dinner with our children. They have to work. I can't have Christmas caroling at church next Sunday because we're still closed due to the pandemic. And that's just my little story. But I'm also aware that some of you will have been much more severely affected by the pandemic or by a job loss or the loss of someone you love or even by a natural disaster like the wildfires out west that we had recently, or the more recent tornadoes in the eastern US. And if you look at the news of the world, there's always something that needs improvement. Yet, the message of the Christmas season withstands it all. I love Dr. Seuss's story of the Grinch who stole Christmas. And if you haven't read it out loud lately, I recommend it because really, no matter what, we do have choices. Now, I can dwell on the impossibilities, or you and I can dwell on the possibilities. We can shift our minds away from what we cannot have to what we actually can have or can hope to have. So in my case, this December, I can spend some time sending loving thoughts to my mom, and I can remember some of her good advice, including her saying, "Don't worry about being perfect. Just be yourself and do what seems right." I can be grateful that I can meet our children for lunch a few days before Christmas. I can be grateful that even though we're not together in person, the Center for Spiritual Living, Carlsbad, is still a beautiful support group that has helped me for so many years, and I can feel grateful that it will continue its mission for many more years to come. And I and you also can send loving prayers. We can give actual help, or we can make a tithe or financial contribution to the people and the causes that we care about, right? But the question that you might be grappling with is, yes, okay, so there are a lot of possibles, but suppose you're stuck in the yuck. Suppose you're stuck thinking about what you don't have. What then? How do we begin to start seeing what's right with the world instead of always being so distracted by what's wrong with the world? How can we turn the corner, start a new leaf, turn the page? Well, just this morning I read the story about a woman who had, like quite a few people, become obsessed with the idea that there was a conspiracy of evildoers running all the governments of the world, and she shared how it was that she gradually was able to realize that she was mistaken and was able to gradually move forward and actually find some peace of mind. She said it was because she became willing to listen to more points of view, and she became willing to think for herself. So for her answer to changing her mindset and being able to look at a world of possibility, her answer was listening with an open mind. Listening, discerning, and learning. The truth is, we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. Every single one of us. We really are all children of the same God, whether we're celebrating Christmas this month or not. And like children, we are always exploring and learning. Now, sometimes we learn through experience, and sometimes we learn through our intellect, and sometimes we learn through our intuition or even through inspiration, through listening to that inner voice of goodness. You can call it God consciousness or Christ consciousness or simply your higher power. The truth is, there really is a power for good, greater than you are, and it is responsive to your thoughts. So whether you are thinking of the infinite power for good, which we call God, or whether you are thinking of the inner connection we have with it, the universe is propelled by an infinite energy of loving kindness and joy. And each of us is free. In fact, you're free today, right now, to choose to have a positive attitude, to be willing to be joyful, to be willing to find the bits of good, the blessings that are constantly showing up in your life, here and there, reminding you, inviting you to experience the possibilities of good. In fact, you're free today to choose to have a positive attitude. But maybe the question is, how? I think I'd like to be positive, but how can we actually make that shift from thinking about what seems wrong to what seems right? How can we look at life positively instead of negatively? Well, imagine for just a minute that you were watching someone sitting around a Christmas tree opening presents. Would they open a box with a beautiful sweater in it and say, "Oh, this is not the pair of shoes that I was thinking about yesterday"? Would they open a box with a puzzle and say, "Oh, I was thinking about a board game, not a puzzle"? Would they open a box of candy and say, "Oh, but I wanted cookies"? No. In fact, their attention would be 100% focus on what they did get and 0% focus on what was not in the box. And what would that mood be that they would be experiencing? It would be a mood of joy. It would be a mood of gratitude because, generally speaking, when we fill our hearts with gratitude for what we do have, it's almost like magic that we find that our hearts become filled with joy. Gratitude is the path to joy, and giving is the practical evidence of gratitude. Receiving with gratitude is the companion to giving with gratitude. It's a wonderful circle of life. When I feel grateful, I feel like giving. When I receive, I feel grateful. Right? When you feel grateful, don't you feel that joy, that sense of abundance, that welling up of a feeling that there is enough to enjoy and enough to share? We give in joy when we recognize that we have enough and are feeling grateful. So, giving with gratitude is a very practical avenue to feeling joy. Now, we have a saying in Science of Mind, with God, all things are possible. Well, maybe you can't turn yourself into an elephant, but it is possible to be happy today. There is enough good surrounding us right now to allow us to be joy-filled if we so choose. So as the year draws to a close, it really is time to stop and count your blessings. There is so much to be grateful for. We live. We breathe. We have this moment. We have this precious moment in which to become aware that there is a power for good greater than we are, in which we live and have our being, that there is a spark of divine light or Christ consciousness, the kingdom of heaven within that mirrors the kingdom of heaven without, which surrounds us, supports us, and enlivens us. These are our heavenly gifts, and they show up all around us in the form of blessings everywhere, waiting to be noticed, waiting to be listened to, waiting to be observed and to be enjoyed. Now, I want to read a very brief essay called Untie the Ribbons that I think will speak to your heart like it did to mine. It's written by Reverend Dr. Maddie Dobbs. Many of you may know her. She is our very own Minister Emeritus, and she is a very wise woman. She always seems to know how to stay centered in divine love. This is what she wrote. Some of us have myths about joy and happiness. We think that rich people are happy people, or that other people are happier than we are. The truth of the matter is that joy and happiness are gifts that each of us is given by divine birthright. Happiness is an inside job. In fact, it is an attitude toward life, the lens through which we view the world. True happiness comes from an awareness of God consciousness within. Spirit is our true source of joy, living in alignment with a consciousness of love, respecting each other, giving and forgiveness, all radiate joy and happiness. How do you tap into this divine love? You can make a choice during this holiday season when many people lose themselves in the holiday rush or feel a bit melancholy. Don't get caught up in the hype. Make a conscious choice to be joyful. Try planning joy breaks in your day and spend 15 minutes on conscious joy. Wouldn't it be fun to keep a joy journal so that you remind yourself just how much fun life can be? Explore how creative you can be. Have you ever watched a spider spin a web? It's fascinating. Have a cup of aromatic tea. Look at the sunset. Take a warm bath. Take a leisurely stroll, or allow yourself the luxury to just be. Rather than long for the holiday traditions of the past, begin anew. Create traditions of your own. Find a way to touch the sacred. In church, at the beach, or do whatever makes your heart sing. Do what makes you smile, while remembering that the greatest joy comes from giving to each other. As we approach the season, let's remember that the gifts of joy and happiness are already given. Let's make a pact to give the gift of love and the gift of ourselves. Joy is all around us, and joy is ours for the asking. Let's untie the ribbons, open our hearts, and share our gifts. Namaste. Isn't that beautiful? Dr. Maddie has been such a blessing in my life and the lives of many others. Her wisdom has blessed so many people, and I hope that her words help you to become willing to open your heart and untie the ribbons and take a really good long look at the gifts of life. There are so many blessings. Good is everywhere. So grab a pen and start your joy journal today. Spend that 15 minutes reminding yourself how much fun life can be, and enjoy this season in joy. It is December. It is the perfect day, the perfect moment to take a breath and know the truth that you are created out of the very stuff of life itself, as are we all. That life is good and there is good for us, and we are free to see it, to affirm it, to accept it, and to enjoy it. So be in joy, share the joy, and have a wonderful, wonderful season of good. All blessings to you. Thank you. It's a wonderful life.